Hi, friends. This is Sarah, and this is an episode I'm calling Overcoming the Inner Committee. It's for guiding your life by filtering your thoughts. And the inner committee is what I would say is the cast of characters in your mind. They voice fears, judgments, criticisms, rules for what you can and will do, and they generally limit our beliefs about life. I sometimes refer to our mind as a stage on which actors are performing scenes. And I'm calling you the holistic, reflective self, the one who is kind of the watcher. Like you are not the thoughts themselves, but you are the inner child or the awareness that is kind of witnessing all that is happening in your body and experiencing the kind of blips of energy that are created by your thoughts. And one important note I want to call out, you might want something different for your life than your thoughts are promoting. And this episode is really about being capable of guiding your life despite the chatter in your mind and taking steps to move forward despite them. And even if they're like screaming the opposite at you, the inner committee can be really powerful and fear inducing. And we react to them, and that can hinder a lot of really positive change. And so this is really an episode about revoking that ability to control you and instead being guided by something deeper, something that's more gut based. And I would say that's like fostering kind of like a core foundational self and being able to even know what that is, like where it is, what's the difference. So, who is this for? This is for anyone who feels they're holding themselves back with rumination, ambivalence, self limiting beliefs. So, in this episode, there are three parts: the what, the why, and the how, the tools. Part one, the what. Negative thought patterns that hold you back. Maybe that's from action, maybe that's from happiness. The thoughts might be intensely negative. They're all different tonalities, they're all different personalities, they're all different forms of logic, all different leanings. And the real suffering here is that they all feel like you. Like it can drive you crazy because it can feel like, well, what's the real me? I feel really strongly all of these different things at different times. So, in basic terms, these are the voices of your ego. And I think of the ego as like your operating system, just like your phone has an operating system. That's your operating system that's developed by um, like the computer that analyzes the data that is your life experience. So, things like trauma, moments of powerlessness where you like made an imprint of like, never fucking do this again, internal projections on your environment that are based on what has not worked for you or has scarred you in your childhood and in your adulthood. So these are the rules that have been kind of set up in your mind to keep you functioning, these voices. However, a lot of them are not true. Like they're like shaped by an emotional response you had to something at a young age, for example. And a lot of them are not helpful to growth because they are designed to keep you safe. They're designed to keep you limited and maintain the status quo of safety. So in that framework that you have set up in your brain, you have this impulse to grow out of something. Let's say you're like, I want to take a leap and I really actually don't like that I'm stuck in this sameness. It's not making me happy. I really want that up there. And so what will happen is you'll kind of swing, a pendulum will swing where you'd be like trying desperately to go for that thing. And then all the voices of sameness will be like, whoa, 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 whoa. We actually like this thing. It's actually helping us. It's keeping us so safe. It's got this good thing, this good thing, this good thing, this good thing. And so you get this ambivalence. Rumination and ambivalence can be crippling. They can be more agony than like being in legit agony. Like it'll make you feel like miserable just because you're stuck in inaction. And sometimes we have so many thoughts that go in circles. They make us miserable and they make us resent ourselves. They make us also look down on ourselves for our own inaction. And that can induce depression, like a sense of lack of agency, of self loathing. And sometimes because these, thoughts or this committee will tell us not to go toward things that will actually make us happier, we will stop or revert in the process of something that we previously chose and committed to that we genuinely wanted. So, this is really about how to direct your behavior toward that which genuinely rewards you and helps you to design your life from a safe place, an emotionally safe place. Because from an emotionally safe place, where we're not driven by fear, we're not reacting to something that's a negative symptom, we see clearly what we want. When there's no like downside attached to that thing, we're like, I know what I want that. And it's like it becomes pure and simple. It just is. So how do we act based on those priorities? What we have to do to begin with is start to build a language, like a hierarchy, an internal hierarchy for which thoughts are you and which thoughts are just these, what I'm going to call like little impulse, fear of pain, triggering thoughts, the things that are based on old trauma that are built to keep you safe, but are not necessarily helpful anymore. Like you're trying to grow out of them. So this is for growing out of the thoughts that are not serving you. A major caveat for this episode, you cannot think your way out of people that are in your life. Like if a lot of your suffering is caused by reacting to another person's negative behavior, that is a factor that you cannot change just with thinking. You can, however, alter your response to that information and remove your participation in like patterns that are causing you to get confused and off balance and enmeshed in like whatever their bullshit is. That's a huge piece of what causes a lot of suffering, is us getting trapped in the logic of somebody else's sickness and being like, but wait, I didn't say that. But what are you? I don't mean, like, it can be blinding to your own self-definition. So I have some tools that will hopefully help in that area. But if you have somebody negative in your life that is dysfunctional, if you remove that piece of the puzzle, everything gets so much more doable. Like it's probably not you. If you're suffering because of somebody else in your life, if you get rid of that source of suffering, a lot of the pain and fucked upness in your life just evaporates instantly. So just want to throw that caveat out there. However, if you are living in a current state of ambivalence, I know it's probably really disheartening and frustrating because you likely don't know yourself. You likely don't trust yourself. And because you are unable to act or have very strong oppositional opinions in a single day, you might have intense anxiety and fear that makes you feel like you just can't act in any direction. Part 2, the why. Why do we have this committee? It's like, as I said, a computer that has been trained on prior scenarios. Many of this committee were really essential at several points in your life. However, when it comes to growth and newness and risk, bursts of change or change that requires you initiate loss, the committee is counterproductive because they are based in the old. They are primitive, they're reductive, and they are reductive to future outcomes. So their models are basically predicting as far as they can see and you can see. And so they don't know the expanse of possibilities. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. I mean, they all have a place at the table. We just have to put them in context because many of the operating commands that they utter are basically just saying like, stay within these lines, stay within these lines. This is what's working for us. We've learned over time that this is what works for us. And it doesn't mean that that's not all healthy and positive and helping you stay functioning. It is. It just means that sometimes we want something different. We want something new. And this is one of those things that I think we can understand, take in, appreciate, and then start to guide our life from a deeper place. And that will always It will always, you always know. I guess it's like fostering an inner sense of knowing. I will also say the committee, some members of the committee can be really harsh and hurtful and keep you feeling small and keep you feeling like living in old belief systems. Because I will say without a doubt, like one of my favorite Al-Anon slogans is if I got to decide my life, I would always end up shorthanded. And that is because as a controlling person who has been through trauma, I would always choose something so small for myself. If I had control over every event in my life, I would choose something that was not good for me. And therefore, this is really about being guided from an aspirational place and a sense of trust and acceptance and just heading for the mountaintop, just heading for the mountaintop energetically and letting go of that need to control how it happens and what is, um, what is outside of our reach that is positive and loving is like where we all want to head for our lives. So with that, let's get to part 3, the how, the tools. But first, a brief word from our sponsors. Okay, the first tool, naming the committee. So this is inspired by my friend Lori Burns' new book. She is one of my heroes. Her book's not out yet. I'm going to have her on the show when the book comes out, but she has changed the fucking world. She is amazing. She's just reformed the foster care system and I mean, saved so many kids. And I'll put a link to her organization, the Teen Project, in the show notes of this show. If you want to donate to a very worthy cause, like every dollar goes to so much, like you have no idea. So anyway, I'm going to have her back on the show. But like one thing in her book that really struck me is she refers a lot to her inner committee. And her committee, her inner committee of thoughts, has been created by really profound traumas. She's a former prostitute, heroin addict, been in mental asylums, and gone through a lot of shit. So her committee is pretty harsh and like not so rational at times, or can be severe, and also has a reason to be severe because legit terrible stuff has happened to her. So anyway, she has overcome her committee, and I think we can all do so as well based on probably not having the same level of suffering as her, but who knows? Maybe you have. But I think one thing that also happens is the committee can be created by moments when you have felt worthless. That is a huge motivator for self-protective mechanisms, is how do you defend against that feeling of utter worthlessness? And so a lot of your committee members might be like judgy and so mean and doubting you and telling you how stupid you are or ugly you are or incapable you are or talentless or seedy, untrustworthy, fill in the blank, whatever those things are. This is the assignment. Get your journal or your phone. I want to invite you to name your cast. Like, what are the voices that come up in your head that talk you into things or out of things? And some of those voices are likely positive and grounding. Some are probably very fearful. Some are probably really angry. Some of them are probably pretty mean. Some of them are very practical. Some are logical. Some are kind of like Tracy Flick from a Election, that movie, which is amazing. Anyway, name them, whatever they are. Mine, I have a Tracy Flick for sure. I also have I have like a 15-year-old Sarah that's like super mean and judgy and like perfectionistic, super dysfunctionally perfectionistic. Whatever makes sense for you. If you want to go for names, like Lori has like negative Nelly and things like that. But like if you want to have names that are just like me at 15, for example, just get to know what they say. Like, what are the voices trends, Judgy, grumpy, angry. And the thing to do is to recognize when a thought comes to your mind that is not serving you. That's all it has to be. It's something that's in conflict with your happiness. It's in conflict with a feeling of safety and rational groundedness. Whatever that thought is, sometimes they come out of nowhere. I'll have a thought that's like, oh, that girl does not know how to dress. And I'll be like, whoa, ouch. No, thank you. I don't like talk like that in here. And I'm like, it's not even affecting me, but I'm like, oh, that's going to trend in a not positive, healthy direction for me, because that's just bouncing back on my internal mirror. So whatever it is, the goal here is as soon as you notice a thought like that, that's not aligned with just let's call it generic peace and groundedness, separate from the thought and see it as something external. Like, oh, there's my outdated operating system just in your mind's eye. Oh, that's not true. That's not nice. That's not helpful. And go from there. If that does not help you, if you find that that causes you to spin out in that moment of resistance, the alternate version of this tool is as soon as you notice that figure come up, you can say, thank you for trying to help. That's it. Thank you for trying to help me. I don't need you, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comment. And allow that person to be there, but very much put them outside of you. It's like mentally just taking a third person perspective on who they are and what their motives are from and seeing them as like my choice to follow or not. The goal here is just to see their motives as separate and act despite them. Being able to even notice how you can act despite them. Because really what we're starting to learn here is to be able to act from a deeper place. If it helps you to visualize, if you've seen Caddyshack, there's the gopher, there's the gopher character, and the gopher dance. When the gopher dances, it's like you can see that gopher is being guided by a large arm in the ground. And like this is like you moving from your gut. You are being guided by a deeper, more resolute arm. And that is sometimes able to move your body despite whatever your thoughts are doing. Literally, you can move your body without consulting your brain. And like, this is exactly how I overcame drug addiction and eating disorder. Sometimes, a lot of the time, I would literally just run out the fucking door. I would like walk out the front door. If I'm like triggered and I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to start to use? Am I going to start to? I would walk out the door and go on a walk and like put on a podcast. I'd be taking control away from my ability to think. And the first thing we need to do is go really deeply into something somatic, something body, something grounded, some action that is removing your ability to focus on your thoughts. Really loud breathing exercises. Like if you plug your ears and do even deep breaths, that's like a really good way to just make your brain shut the fuck up. I invite you to like really think on what your tools are that get you to have some sense of silence in your brain. And what I call those our zag moments. Like my brain is about to decide something terrible that I know deep down I don't want. How can I zag? How can I throw myself into a totally different felt experience that will really take my brain energy to focus on? So cold showers, hot baths, conversations with friends while doing something physical. I would literally jog around this reservoir for hours listening to podcasts. And then if I was still feeling triggered, I would go to a yoga class at like 8 o'clock at night. It was exhausting, but it was like only for a specific amount of time that I really didn't feel like I could align my behavior. It was like about a consistent month or two, but you're basically trying to outrun your trigger. So I remember driving, somewhere, and I would like be driving to get food. And I was like, oh no, I'm fucking doing my binging again. And I would turn to it like a road. I would turn myself around to and drive a different direction. That was one way I was just redirecting. We're just trying to delay the trigger response, delay as much as possible. All right. Next tool, the God box. If that word triggers you, let's call it the good box, the intentions box. I put this in many episodes, but I think it's really important for this topic in particular because rumination is the most devastating part of this thing. It's like the ambivalence and not being able to stop the thoughts and or discern which ones are more true. So whatever is spinning in your head, just write it down on a piece of paper, leave it to the universe, and put it in the box. Find a like beautiful ornate box or a shoe box, whatever it is. This is your place to put things that are your genuine intentions. And then write this thing down, whatever it is, my relationship, whether or not to stay or go. Write it on the piece of paper, put it in the box, and like know that that is done. That is not for you to solve anymore. You are just practicing acceptance over powerlessness. And it's super simple. As soon as you do that, you are relinquishing your ability to control the outcome. And you're accepting whatever is right. I want whatever is right to happen. That is what I wish for myself. And so really, if you are freaked out about this, I get it. It feels a little spooky. And I'm like, but I don't want to lose control. Just to initiate this process and just start to get in the rhythm of it, feel it out. The first assignment I want to give you is to place within this box a written goal for yourself. Nothing terrifying, just something super simple like, my goal is to be aligned. I want to be able to act based on my own best interests. I want to be able to love myself. I want to be a friend to myself. Whatever it is, your words, just put that in the box and start small. Just start really small. The first step of this entire episode, this entire process, is for you to just choose to invest in yourself and invest in the relationship with yourself and really start to like get to know and trust yourself. That's like the truest goal, because we have to build that knowledge, that intention from the ground up. We have to start really, really, really small. And every step we take it'll feel trivial. It'll feel almost like this isn't doing shit, but it is. So I have a metaphor I like to use. Imagine you are dating yourself. You have just met you and you are courting you, and you have to treat yourself that nicely. Like, I want to be super gentle, super supportive, do sweet things, surprise me, give me like very special little gestures, affection, all of the things you would do if you were dating somebody new and you were excited about that. And I know that it's hard to do this, but including really filter out the thoughts you have in your mind. And if they're not nice, separate from them and be like, hey, no, thank you. That doesn't feel nice. No, thank you. I dismiss you. All right. Next tool, wiggle the truck. So this is for thoughts that are very black and white, that are harsh or fear-based. This is a thought exercise that I is inspired by a lot of Byron Katie's work. When we have any strong negative thought, one thing, like it's usually a fear. I can't possibly do that. Or I'm never, ever going to get over this. Or this person is so mean to me. Whatever it is. To wiggle the truck, all we have to do is ask ourselves, is that thing true? Or is the opposite also true? Maybe I feel the opposite about this thing. Maybe I actually do like this thing. Whatever the thought is, the exercise is to imagine yourself genuinely feeling the opposite way. And just imagining it. Imagining, is there a way that I actually do like this thing? Is there a way that there is a benefit to this thing? It's like wiggling a truck that is stuck in the mud. And when we can practice believing the opposite for just a second, we can see that there's shades of gray in everything. It gets us out of a black and white state of thinking, and it also allows us to take a little bit more accountability and soften. It's about like taking our need to control and resist things out, which allows for more change and growth and compassion for ourselves. It also helps us to not be so rigid in our inability to change. All right, next tool. Why have I chosen this tool? This is a reflection or a frame, and it's to ask why things in your life that you don't like exist. So the exercise is to ask, what is this helping me do currently? For example, like when you have a person we know we don't love, but we are keeping them in our lives despite that. What is this helping me do? What is this bringing into my life? Like, what is the benefit that I have actually chosen for myself right now? And oftentimes it's something very functional and healthy. Like, for example, it's giving you control because you feel incredible pain and powerlessness when you are not in control. Or if you are deceiving somebody and you are getting your happiness from somebody else, it's like, this is the only way that it's distant enough from me that I can tolerate the stress of this relationship. Like that is a conscious choice that's keeping you safe. We're always self-medicating with different things. And they all make sense for us at different times. All right, the next tool is what I'm calling reflection or a frame. When you are experiencing something that's causing you a lot of ambivalence, I think we're like, all right, but I do really like this thing. It is helping me do these things, and I probably shouldn't even try. Give it the end of life test. That's the frame. At the end of your life, you're looking back. Your life could end tomorrow. Would it be worth it? Your life has been lived. You are old. What now is your judgment of this situation? Was it worth it? Or is it more of an active violation of your life that you allowed yourself to make the decision to not take action? When we remain in a state of ambivalence, I always call it masturbation because it's like a self-indulgent act of staying the same. It is in itself a choice. By staying in a state of inaction, I would say that's a worse violation of your life because you're just choosing to live as a dead person. It's like a denial of life, a pause button, a decision to hide. And I think that's worse than being active in the fight or active in the like crawling through the mud or fill in the blank, whatever is going to happen. At least be active in growth. Make a choice, give it the end of life frame, and make a choice to be active in a state of change, as small as that is. As soon as you're in a state of change, I'm working on the clay, I'm molding it in front of myself, then it's like, it's immediate relief. I'm actually moving towards something now. It's such a relief. Okay, next tool is a meditation. I like to do this right before I go to bed. I think it's just helpful for starting to target the true you and starting to really hone in on what aligns with my values. What am I proud of? What am I not proud of? It's super simple. Right before you go to bed, ask yourself, what did I do well today? What am I proud of today? And then relive those things. And then also ask, what did I not do so well? What would I like to change in the next instance of this situation? It's really just starting to practice being honest with yourself and like starting to notice, like, this is what I tell people who are self-sabotaging. It hurts you because you are good. Like the things that don't line up with us hurt. And that just shows you where you are. Like it shows you where you stand. So really like take notice of that at the end of your day. All right, the next tool, my why. This is a journal exercise. I wanted to invite you to take an inventory of just the raw materials. Like you as a person are basically a research paper of your favorite people and also all of your unprocessed losses and also all of the most impactful fears, like moments of no power. And so, as an exercise, I would just invite you to write all of that down. Like, what are my raw materials? What is my why for all that is not working in my life? And all the areas I'm stuck. And just really look at the motivators in your current life situation. Like, separate them into a bulleted list, because I think you'll be surprised to see that a lot of the motivators are not reflective of your values. Like, we're not deciding them based on a value that we have for ourselves. We're deciding them from a medication standpoint, like a self-medication standpoint. They are things that once we can identify them and like highlight them, like, I'm doing this because I cannot tolerate being alone. I'm doing this because I have crippling fear of loss, whatever it is. When you can see something that's rooted in an old experience or in a malady of some sort, as soon as you know that information, it becomes a goal. It becomes something that it becomes your clay to work on. When it all starts by being able to see it. Like, oh, I can highlight this. This thing is guiding me unconsciously. This thing is guiding me unconsciously. And suddenly you separated all that information out and you can see, like, these are my goals. These are my actual true goals that are irrelevant of any other situation in my life. These are me on me goals. I want to feel safe enough to be alone. I want to not feel terrified as soon as I'm single. I want to feel confident enough to take risks. I want to love myself enough to ask for promotions. All of these little tethers, though, can be really confusing and make us think that we're choosing things or that we want things that we actually genuinely hate. And it's all like kind of muddled until we really break it down in like very black and white terms. This is a weird one. For example, people who are really angry and resentful towards others who are successful, or if you're jealous of people who are successful, that root is most likely extreme sensitivity. It's not that you're not talented. It's not that you are afraid. It's that you are so incredibly sensitive that you cannot tolerate the pain of risk, of putting yourself out there, of being vulnerable and open. It's so visceral and excruciating. That motivator, though, is often invisible. And so if you can like do this exercise, you can see what the thing is, and then we can walk almost like, when you have a handicap, you walk with it, you learn how to work with it. It's like people who have schizophrenia, if they can become experts on their diagnosis and experts on their own care, the outcomes are so much better because it's like, I'm empowered in that process, I think in general, when people are trapped and confused in something, a lack of action and a lack of agency makes us feel the most angry, self-loathing, and then eventually depressed. You might also find out in this practice that you have real suffering and real pain from an action you're taking that you do not respect. Like, for example, let's say you're lying to somebody or you're betraying somebody. In that situation, even though you're still taking this dishonest action, I want you to remember you are the one who dislikes this thing. The goal at the end of this is to just be able to simply say, I know I want this goal. My goal is to not be doing this action. My goal is to be on the level with myself. My goal is to be an aligned human being. Just getting to that point is an accomplishment. I know that sounds crazy, but like, we're often setting goals based on symptoms. We're often setting goals like, I just want to be perfectly happy in a committed relationship. That has nothing to do with the way that outcome comes about. So like, really start with the core. Everything comes from your ability to command your life, your ability to have agency. You build a house from the foundation up. This has to start with your core ability to align with yourself and what you want. If you don't have that ability, it doesn't matter what you're given. It's like you can't hold on to it. You need to have that core connection. Otherwise, we're like living from the head up. All right, the next tool I already said this earlier, but I just want to recap it. The 911 list, if you are dealing with ambivalence and thoughts that are really, really loud and negative, we need to have a set of tools that allow us to take control from our mind and give it to our physical body, like what I talked about with zagging. So, for this reason, if you don't have one already, have what I call a 911 list in your phone or wherever, a list of 10 things you can do to soothe your physical body and really tune into your physical body. For me, it's things like yoga and walking with the podcast, hot bath, hiking. I used to hike religiously. Whatever it is for you, seek out those practices if you don't have them. Seek them out. They don't have to be that like involved. They can be like staring at a tree, looking at the branches of the tree, focusing until you get a moment of silence in your head where you're just really witnessing nature, etc. All right, the next tool, keep your karma clean. I know for myself, as soon as I have an act that is like not honest with myself, this is just for you moving forward. As soon as I do something I know is not on the level with my values, it causes me, it's like sticks on my consciousness. It gnaws. And immediately I'm like, oh, fuck, this is gonna cause me so much pain in the future if I don't correct it. It causes sickness. It's like having a stone in your psyche. It takes something away from me. So, the rule of life, if you can just keep this top of mind, keep my karma clean, give love and joy, and I will receive love and joy. Whatever I give, I will receive. So just continue to ask yourself. It can be a gentle suggestion. It doesn't have to be like, never ever fuck up. It could just be as simple as, how can I improve upon this today? How can I walk toward the goal of giving and receiving love? And know that you are always changing. We're always changing. Every single day, every single moment, we are changing. You are never, ever static. So don't ever think, I quit evolving years ago. Nope, you are always changing. All right. And the last tool, this is a weird one, but it helps me sometimes to think of my life in this way. If it doesn't align with your values or your belief system, ignore this tool. But the tool is a frame of reflection. What is my karmic life choice lesson? This is mainly for dealing with regret and or reconciling when you have a life that you're like that causes you a lot of pain and you're like, I just wasted this life. This life sucks. I ruined it. Like if you're having thoughts like that, I want you to ask yourself, what is my karmic life choice lesson? Like I'm assuming that you chose this life, this existence before you got here. What has this set of experiences gifted you with, or what are you here to learn and grow through? Like what path are you on? And like what are you set to grow in terms of depth as a human being? For example, I think one of my karmic life lesson choices that I made in this life experience is I'm learning to grow more selfless. I'm learning to not take things so personally and not make everything about me. In other words, we're asking what the foundation for our emotional baggage is and like what did we choose to get out of that? Like what did we choose to get out of like all of the pain and suffering we have experienced in this specific life? And if you can look at it from that perspective, I think it can clarify in a weird way what your actual goal is and like what the benefits of all of that you've been through really are in like who you're eventually going to become. Just did 10 turns there. Hope that made sense. Okay, so those are my tools. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And before I close, I want to thank my latest sponsors. Tiffin, thank you so much for your generous donation. Anyone who has the means, donations really help out the show. If you don't have the means, I totally understand. It's all good. And if you could share it with someone that it could help, that helps me as well. In closing, what you think has little to do with what's real. And all that you think and all that's real can change on a dime. People change on a dime. You can change at any stage of your life. And whatever that change is, it just starts with a goal, a desire, a love, something you want genuinely. And know that all suffering can be used to heal others. So if you have come out of a trauma and you've lived through it and you've even thrived, I invite you to own that story because in many ways it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the world who can thrive from it. It's like you have a map that you can share with others. It can, and if that doesn't feel safe for you, ignore that. I know that it's like it can be its own separate process that's triggering to like share things of your past that you're not comfortable with quite yet. But anyway, as you encounter your inner committee, my challenge to you is to begin to tune inward and wait for that tiny whisper of the inner child or of the witness and choose what aligns with the highest, most loving goal. And sometimes it will be like the tiniest little feedback. You can barely hear it. And your inner committee will be screaming at you as you take slow, steady steps towards something that honors you holistically and that will heal you and potentially change your life for the better. And you'll be doing it despite being horrified and like thinking it's the worst thing in the world in a thought way. One of the hardest things I ever did was divorce my ex-husband, and I didn't think I was capable of it. And this person very much deserved, needed to be divorced immediately because they were not safe. But I remember being like, I can't do it. My thoughts were like, I can't possibly ever let go of this person. This is my partner. This is like the love of my life. I just got married to this person. And I remember I had to take actions despite that, going against every fiber of my body, even though this person betrayed me and was like very obviously not a good person to be with. I remember putting a note in my God box that my friend Lori gave to me. And the 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 note I wrote was just like, please, I choose to protect and love and honor myself. It was something that simple. Help me to love and honor myself. And I remember having to go to file the paperwork, the courthouse, everything in my body. It felt like I was betraying myself by doing that. But I had a wiser self that knew I had to do it. And just know that sometimes like actions are fucking hard, like they are so painful in certain situations. But you have a wiser self and know that change in this arena can be conflicting, it can be painful, it can be slow. And the growth of this like trust in self is almost imperceptible. It takes repetition and it takes just a genuine goal, a genuine desire for that goal, and really a focus on that single goal. And know that that little silent watcher inside you takes notice when you are walking the walk of truth. It's slow, it's this weird thing that just creeps in. You start to believe you and you start to feel so treasured by you and you start to have faith in you. And suddenly it's like a snowball that's barreling down a hill. It gets bigger and bigger and it builds momentum. You start to feel so good about yourself and you feel so in love with yourself for the first time. And with that, you feel confident and you start to know what you want for the first time. And from there, anything is possible. All of the other shit, you can choose it and it will happen. You need to grow that relationship first. From there, when you have that trust in self and you have that self-love, I know what to do with my relationship. I know what to do with the dishonesty. I know what I need to do with my loose ends. It's like everything else becomes possible. All the things that feel out of your control, like I can't seem to fix all these things. It all happens when you have that core strength. So just start there. It starts with the relationship with you. I hope this is helpful. I send you my love and don't forget to smile.